Hello, students and instructors. I'm back with more Go the Extra Mile. This video aligns with Chapter 10, Reporting the Public Relations Program Results. And our focus today is don't forget what comes next. As your team rolls along toward the end of your project or campaign, I want you to stop and think a bit about your client. Your client agreed to the work your team proposed because, and I can be fairly confident of this, your client could not have done the work on their own without your involvement. It could be an issue of client expertise. Maybe they don't know anything about public relations. It could be an issue of time. Maybe they know about PR, but they don't have the time to do the work that needs to be done. Or maybe it's just an issue of resources. The client didn't have the bandwidth, as the cliche says. They didn't have the bandwidth to do the work. In any event, your team is here doing this because the client couldn't get it done without you. So here is an important thing to consider. When your team is done, where will the client go from here? Will the client be able to build upon what you've done? How will the client know what steps to take? It will be a shame for your team to have done great work that ends when you walk out the door because the client can't keep the work going, can't build on it, doesn't know where to go or what to do. So my message today is don't forget what comes next. What comes next is quite literally what the client does after your team is done. If you've built social media accounts, can the client continue making thoughtful, beneficial posts? If you've started a Yelp for your client, will the client know how to manage it? If you build a set of brochures, will the client know how to distribute them and verify success? And so forth. So what comes next is that your final campaign needs to tell the client what happens next. Tell them where they go from here. Tell them what resources they will need and why. Give them guidance. Sometimes we call this a roadmap to show the client where to go. Make your recommendation to the client in a step-by-step guide for managing the social media that you've gave them, or using the web-based content that you've built. Make your recommendations. Maybe your recommendation is an intern. Maybe the client needs to hire a college intern to manage the content your team built. You could give the client all the information needed to post an internship opportunity. Every client is different. Every situation is different, but every client needs to be shown the road ahead. So don't forget what comes next. Because the last thing you want here is to have built a great project or campaign, and your campaign report goes on a shelf, never to be looked at again, right? Oh, and one more thing. If you build a web page, social media, or any digital media content for your client, make sure you give the client access codes. The client needs to know how to access the digital media, so they've got to have the login, the password, and any other relevant information. A few years ago, one of my student PR agency teams did a great job building a new interactive website for a community-based nonprofit. The team leader, the account executive, was in his last semester. He, and he alone, had the login information to access the website. He was graduated. Shortly after commencement, the client called me. Hey, Swanson, what's the website password? I had no idea. So I reached out to the team. Nobody on the team knew either, only the account executive. But right after commencement, he left town. He wasn't answering email. I didn't have a phone number for him. It was an embarrassing situation for me, to say the least. Long story short, he did finally get a message from me, and he contacted the client to turn over the login and the password. But the client was not happy. I understand. So please, when your team is done working, make sure you provide all relevant information to your client rep. Thank you very much for following these extra mile recommendations. They add value to your work. This one in particular will make sure your project or campaign has value long after your team has moved on. Take care, everybody.